Have you ever felt like you're living life but not really living it intentionally? You know the feeling when you're just following through life but not really living it. You're doing what you're supposed to do, what is expected of you, but you're not really asking yourself, what kind of life do I actually want to live? Or how do I want to feel living this life? Hi, I'm Vagini and this is Make Life with Vagini. This is a space where we talk about everything self-growth, living intentionally and becoming the best versions of ourselves. For as long as I can remember, I have always been living my life in chaos. I've always thought that I was busy, I was moving through life like nothing really mattered. I was just doing what I was supposed to do, what was expected of me, and not really thinking about, is this how I want my life to feel? I think we're so focused on figuring out we want the best life for ourselves, but when it comes to the daily actions, we don't really know how that should make us feel. I felt like my life was becoming routines, chaotic, and just really a lot on my mind all the time. I didn't really know what I wanted for myself or how I wanted my life to feel. I was so focused on the end goal that I wanted to build something for myself. I was so focused on doing everything at once that I didn't realize that I didn't have myself with that. I was balancing work, expectations from others, future plans, goals that I wanted to achieve, all of that. I was trying to do everything and that just became so chaotic, and I was living in fully routines and not really living my life. I don't know if you ever felt like that, but that is how I felt. One of the biggest goals for myself was feeling a little bit more peaceful, and I realized that I was doing none of that because I was filling myself with so many things that I had to do to make sure that I get the life that I wanted. But I was building a life from chaos, that being busy meant that I was living the life that I was supposed to do. But I wasn't really doing that. The difference between living life and living life intentionally can really be so similar. And I think that we need to stop for a second and notice that sometimes we can change the way we live our life. Living life for me is reacting to expectations, like expectations from work, society, family, whatever it is, like reacting to that because you're just doing what you're supposed to do, constantly being busy, trying to fill every single gap in your plans just to make sure that you're trying to live life because you think in some kind of way that makes you successful. Sometimes you see things online, you see your friends, your society, whatever it is. When you see people do something, you want to do the same. I feel like that is living life and not actually living it intentionally. You're just doing what everyone else does because you think that that might get you a little bit closer to what life actually feels like. And one of the things that I realized too is you are not pausing to actually reflect. Sometimes you're just running through everything, push yourself to everything. Every single week is the same. You don't have time to think. You don't have time to take a shower. And this one is for me because I have always been like that. I've always been so busy trying to figure everything out, trying to do everything at once. I never really stopped to just pause and to really reflect on what is going on. How do I even feel? How do I actually want to live my life? Like, why was it so hard to just pause? And that for me is living life. Living intentionally means that you start choosing what matters. You start choosing who you want to spend your time with. You start choosing what you want to spend your time on. And you start to protect your energy. You start to set boundaries. Whatever people expect from you, you start to set boundaries because you know that you want to protect your own peace. You start choosing what truly matters to you, who you want to spend your time with, what you want to spend your time on, and you start realizing that some things just doesn't matter anymore. All of the small things that once worried you, they don't really matter anymore. And living intentionally means you start protecting your energy. You start setting boundaries. You start setting clear boundaries for people, for work, cultural expectations, whatever it is. You start setting boundaries because you know that you want to live your life a little more intentionally. So you start setting those boundaries. You align your habits with your future. So the goals that you have, your daily actions align with that goal. So if you want to live a life where you are more successful, you start living that way. So do you want to be healthy? You start taking daily actions to make sure that you live a healthy life. And the last one is that you start actually enjoying your life. And this one is definitely one of the biggest things, because sometimes we take ourselves too seriously all the time. I know we have goals, I know we want to be the best versions of ourselves, but sometimes we really just need to enjoy ourselves. Go take yourself out for a day, go have fun with your friends, take 2 weeks off to travel the world, whatever it is. Just take a moment to enjoy your life. That makes you live your life a little bit more intentionally. To be completely honest, I'm still finding myself just living life and not living more intentionally. So these are just a few things that helped a little bit for me, and I want to choose these things daily. One of the things that really changed for me was starting to journal. I am an overthinker, so I overthink every little aspect of my life, and sometimes I can have so many thoughts at the same time, and it overwhelms me, and it makes me feel like I need to run through life instead of just pausing and reflecting. So one of the things that helped me a lot was to start journaling. I spent a couple of minutes every night just to clear my thoughts. How did I feel that day? Is there anything that is bothering at the moment? Is there anything that I'm thinking about that I can't really control? I think I had like a month where every day, every week felt the same. I was constantly in my mind. I was never really present. I was just running through life because I had to. That really made me realize that I needed to stop and think about how do I actually want my life to feel rather than how I wanted it to look. So I took a moment to really think about how do I really want my life to feel like, and I felt like I wanted to feel a more peaceful life and more peace at my mind, and just fully being connected with my loved ones, being fully present whenever I was with them. So that made me feel like that I needed to change something in some kind of way. I really want you to pause for a second and just think about how do you want your life to feel and how do you want to live your life. And I feel like we are so focused on the end goal sometimes that we forget that the small daily things that you do every single day, that is what makes us live life and really feel present with our lives. So I definitely recommend just spend a few minutes to just think about how do you want your life to feel. Building small daily habits. You need to realize that your life feels the way that you live your life every single day. So take your normal Monday morning. How does that make you feel? That is how your life is gonna feel in 10 years. Doing that every single day, that is what makes your life feel the way it is. If you're not choosing your habits and making sure that those habits really align with the life you want, you will never find yourself in that space. So you need to realize that the life that you want to live comes from your daily actions. I really focus on having a slow morning routine. I know it's really hard to have that because when you work a full-time job and all of that, but I really try to intentionally choose to have a little slower morning every single day, because if I'm not doing that, I don't see myself having time for myself during the day. So that is the only time that I get to myself, and that is why I choose it intentionally every single day. Another thing that I chose to do is to put my phone in another room every single night so I don't scroll at night, and I just spend my time being more present with myself, my thoughts, and feel like that I am actually living life in some way. And when I wake up in the morning, I don't have my phone on me, so I'm just not constantly reminded of things that I had to do or I'm supposed to do. I really want you to just stop for a moment and reflect on a few things, and I think that this really helped me a lot, because whenever I feel overwhelmed, I take a moment to reflect on these things. I really wanted to share them with you as well. Here's a few things that I want you to ask yourself. When was the last time you thought about what kind of life do you actually wanted to live? I'm not talking about how you want your life to look, your relationship status, your goals for the year. I'm not talking about that. I'm simply talking about how do you want your life to feel? How do you want to feel every single day? How do you want to live your life every single day? When you go to bed today, how do you want to feel? That is what I'm asking about. Have you ever thought about that? And when was the last time you thought about it? And the next thing that I want you to think about, are your daily habits aligning with the life that you want? As I've said so many times already, but the life you want really comes from the daily habits you take. So if you want your life to feel peaceful and you're not doing anything to make that peaceful today, how do you expect yourself to feel peaceful? You need to realize that the small things and the small habits that you do today, that is what builds the life that you want. So if you want a peaceful life, you need to take a moment for yourself today. Take a moment outside of everything else. Take a moment to just journal, meditate, whatever you do. Just take a moment for yourself and make sure that your life feels peaceful. Because if you're not peaceful at mind, you will never feel like you are peaceful in your life. And this comes from someone who overthinks, so I know this by heart. It is really hard to live a peaceful life if your mind is constantly on. So you need to realize that the daily actions that you take to make sure that you live a little bit more peaceful, it comes from you. It comes from the daily things that you do. If you're not journaling, if you're not taking a moment to just step outside, get some fresh air, whatever it is that makes you feel peaceful, if you're not doing that, you cannot live a peaceful life. So yeah, if you want to live your life intentionally, what are you doing to make that feel intentionally? Are you spending a few hours with your friends? Are you calling your loved ones? Are you spending time with yourself? What are you doing to make yourself feel like you are actually living the life that you want? If you're also trying to build a life that feels more meaningful and intentional, you are in the right place. Because this is something I'm learning too. I actually started a series on my social media called Make Life. So go along and follow my journey because we are doing this together. Until then, I will see you guys next time.